Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creative Presentation at Full Sail University, or as we call it, CRP. I am Kristin Heaney. I'm one of the instructors that teaches CRP, and I wanted to do just kind of a brief overview and introduction of this course. Of course, it's the first class that most students take here at Full Sail, so there's a little bit of a learning curve for some in managing the learning platform and the assignments. So this is really just a brief overview of how to handle our learning platform and how to navigate through some of the items that instructors expect you to know as you are students here at Full Sail. So with the agenda today, I wanted to talk briefly about these items. First is going to be how you handle messages. Next will be managing your account with an FSO. Next is going to be a class overview. We'll then move into the FSO fact card, Connect, and then lynda.com. Just another brief overview about the first week assignments and the rubrics, the grading rubrics that we use. And then finally, a wrap up. So definitely a couple of things that you want to be aware of as you continue to move through your classes and your degree programs. This is a lot. This is a new experience for many people, and we want to congratulate you on making this huge decision. But there are a lot of things going on, a lot of things to manage, so we wanted to make it easy for you with a step-by-step instruction on how to navigate some of the items that we expect you to navigate week after week. So first, let's move into your messages. We are communications people, so we communicate quite a bit within the creative presentation department. So this is, if you haven't seen it yet, it's definitely something you should be familiar with. This is the FSO platform. All students, whether they're online or campus students, use this platform to submit assignments and use as a great communications tool. So this will be an extremely important area for you to check multiple times per day, preferably. So you can send messages directly to your instructors through that little envelope icon. That will come directly to me. You can also message other students within the course. So this is how I will communicate to my classes as a whole. I will send you messages through here, or I might send individual messages if I need to get in touch with you. We also have access to email, of course, but this is one of those great ways to keep these messages contained within the platform. But that green arrow up at the top of the screen is showing where you can click to check on your own personal messages. One note here, many times, especially early in the month, instructors tend to get messages sent to them within the actual assignments. You want to avoid doing that because sometimes that can get lost in the shuffle, or we don't get into the grading until after the due date has passed. So especially if you're asking a specific question for an upcoming assignment, you want to send us a message directly, either via email or through an FSO message here in the platform. So be sure that you are sending us messages directly, especially with something pertaining to an impending due date coming up on the weekend. So that's how you check your messages. This is also a great area. If you click on that little envelope icon and you drop it down, you have a couple more options here. So you can send messages, and you can also check something called your announcements. Many times instructors use the announcement sections to post additional material, or if maybe they say something in the go-to session and they wanted to send you an additional link or some additional information, they will send an announcement out to their entire class. Okay, so that's where you could check your announcements. There's a lot of preloaded announcements in there, which is a great place to visit if you need access to the textbooks. Yet again, if you don't remember how to get to those, access to lynda.com and some other key items. So be sure that you check in those announcements. I usually send about 2 or 3 general announcements per week. So it's going to be vital additional information that you need to be checking on a regular basis. In addition to those announcements, a lot of instructors also send out bonus material and pre-work reminders. So we might have a go-to session coming up and we'll ask you to watch a specific video because we'll be discussing it in the go-to session. So that's where you can also find some pre-work reminders as well as some follow-up messages from the instructors. So one thing that we do ask that you do is click on the Manage Your Account. It's right next to that little envelope icon, the little person. You can go in there and we ask that you actually add your photo so we can get to put a face with a name. It helps us to get to know you guys better. So please, if you would, upload a photo of yourself in the Manage Your Account area. Also, set your notifications to be alerted via email when things like grades are posted or new instructor comments and new messages have been posted. That way, you don't have to go in there multiple times a day to check. You can be alerted when something is pertinent to you. So once you go in there, set your email preferences, preferably put the check marks in the grades, the activities, new instructor comment, and then of course messages. So you don't want to have those messages lingering in there for several days because you haven't checked the FSO platform. So take a minute or two, upload that photo, and then check those email preferences, and you should be definitely on your way to success within this class. So moving along to our class structure, it's a little bit different from that traditional classroom that many of us tend to think of. This is going to be online learning. So the structure of the class is going to be a bit different. So I wanted to go a little bit into depth in how we organize our online classes. So first is going to be the lectures. Some people teach on campus, and that schedule is a little bit different from those that teach online. So usually if you're taking an online course, your instructor will meet with you once per week in something called a go-to session. And this gives us the ability to interact with you in real time. You can log in and you can interact with us over a microphone. You can use the chat box. We can have discussions. You can have discussions with your classmates. So this is a fantastic tool for online learning, and we all use it at least once a week. Some instructors might do a twice a week go-to session, and that's fine, but at least once per week you will be interacting. You have the ability at least to interact live with your instructors. So for instance, mine are going to be held on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you would need to register for these lectures in advance. The instructors normally put out the registration link in those announcements, again, those important announcements. So we will provide that link to you, and you would go in and register, and the go-to software actually sends you a nice reminder of the meeting. So that's great. So we also do record these lectures. We know that everyone is in different time zones with different schedules. That's one of the advantages of online learning, is that you can do this in your own time when it's convenient for you. So we do record the lectures, and we will be posting the lectures in the same place that you found that 1.1 assignment where you could go and click on the registration link. We will then take out the registration link and post the recorded session link in there for you guys. A lot of times we also send out an announcement with that link for viewing later on as well. But definitely if you can make it to the live session, that is the way to go. It's the best way to really interact in real time with your instructors and other classmates as well. So as I mentioned with the attendance, you do not have to attend live. I highly recommend it, but it is not required. However, you do need to be sure that you are watching the recorded session if you could not make it to the live session. You are responsible for that content. You are responsible for any of the additional items that we ask you to watch. So be sure that soon after you have, if you have not watched it live, that soon after you watch the recorded version. Also, you need to go into the Go To Training activity and click on the I have completed this activity button to let us know that you have watched the recorded session. So assignments, just a brief overview of the main assignments that you will come in contact with over the course of the next 4 weeks. And I will say, just to kind of, just to give a highlight here, if you are repeating the course, you must recreate your original work. So we can't have any recycled projects for these items here that I'm going to mention in addition to the discussion boards. So the first main assignment of week 1 will be the TED Talk analysis. Moving into week 2, we will start building our presentations for the final project here in this class, and that is our presentation plan. So you first make a laid out plan with a lot of specifics as you move into the first draft. The first draft draft will be the week 3 main assignment. And then in week 4, you have the final version of the Brand Yourself project. And of course, in the go-to sessions, we go over these assignments in greater detail. I'm just giving an overview right now. But these are all assignments that are built upon. So you don't want to go into week 1 and complete that and not complete week 2 and then complete week 3. They're all items that are building upon each other. So it is essential that you do not skip any of these assignments. It would really hurt your grade also if you are skipping these. So be sure that you are accessing and completing all of the assignments. In addition to the assignments, we give regular feedback. Feedback is essential to growth. All of the instructors here are very detailed in the way that they give their feedback, because we want to see you take your assignment from week 2 and move it into a fantastic final presentation. We want to see that growth. We want to take you through the steps, but it does occur in phases. So as you're moving through these phases, we will give you feedback. What is it that you're doing well? What is it that we could see, some improvement upon, and making some suggestions on how you could shift to do things a little bit better and aim for that exemplary status that we all try to aim for. So feedback is essential. We will provide it with every single assignment, so be sure you're taking the time to read it. A lot of us are very in-depth and detailed, and it does take us some time to move through that, but we're doing it with your best interest at heart, to be successful students throughout this program. So if you ever have any problems with FSO, we are here to teach the content of this course, but a lot of us are not going to be able to walk you through how to maneuver FSO or doing any of the training with the specific presentation programs. Those are things that you will need to do some just different trainings on your own time. And you will also have FSO to support you. They are open almost 24 hours. If you look at the hours here, they're open Monday to Sunday, 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So they have a very short window of times when they are closed. So highly recommend that you actually reach out and call them if you are having any problems whatsoever. And as you can see on the right, FSO supports students in all of these different areas. So they're very well versed, and they could be quite helpful to you as you're moving through the program. So try not to get too frustrated. Use the resources that are available to you as a Full Sail student before you start getting to the point where you're pulling your hair out. Reach out for help. They are here to support you with that technical aspect of the courses. So be sure to call them. You can find this support card, the FSO support card, in the About section within FSO. So that red arrow is pointing to the exact section where you can find that FSO support card. I recommend that you put that number into your phone, or maybe you print that FSO support card, save it somewhere where you can easily find it, because you're probably going to need it at some point or another, and you want to be able to access it quickly. So another great resource here at Full Sail is going to be our Connect site. This is a fantastic resource for students. So it's here where you can find access to student advisors or tutors or online student liaisons, or OSLs, as we call them. But over to the left here, you can see student resources as a tab. So I suggest taking some time and really just navigating through this site. This is the Connect site. This is also where you can access the library, which will become a wonderful tool for you as you're moving through your program. So take some time to get familiar with that Connect site, as well as lynda.com. Lynda is it's a phenomenal resource, and it is actually free to you as a Full Sail student. So this is a huge database of very professionally done tutorials. So if you, for instance, you've never really worked with Keynote or PowerPoint, you could take a half an hour to an hour and become pretty well versed just by watching these tutorial videos that lynda.com provides. For instance, I've just completed and received a certificate for a course in training on Google Docs. I completed the training in about 1.5 hours, and you can come back to it as you need to. You don't have to complete it in one full sitting, but it is a phenomenal resource for you as you move through your program here at Full Sail. So that's just another one that you want to keep in mind. So that's just a brief overview of some things to keep in mind about the FSO platform and some of those resources that are available to you. So getting into some of the assignments, and I'm going to really focus on the week 1 assignments because this is where we're all new and we're still trying to get our bearings. So these are the assignments that I will walk through in good detail for you in the FSO platform. So first, you will see each week kind of a snapshot, if you will. Of course, the dates will change month to month, but you will see usually 4 different activities that you will need to be aware of and probably need to either complete or respond or submit an assignment with. Okay, so first assignment of each week is going to be the go-to trainings, the live sessions. This is where instructors will post their link for the live session. That's where you would click on the link and register to attend live. Once the live session is over and we have either uploaded our session to YouTube or we have it housed somewhere else, we will then post that recorded session link in this same area so you can go back and view it at your convenience. So that is usually the first assignment of the week. The second one has to do a lot of times with your learning activities and dealing with the textbooks. Our textbooks are called Resonate and Slidology. And so this is where you can see the weekly readings. Usually the third assignment, especially in the first and second weeks, is going to be a discussion of some sort. And this is really in place of that online learning environment where you can interact with other classmates and start to share and give each other feedback. So this is a way for you to do that. And then of course the last assignment of the week is going to be that main item that you are going to be submitting for a grade. You can also see here in the first columns on the right side, the weight for your grade. So you want to be aware what's weighted, what is not. So the discussion assignment and then the professional presentation analysis both have a weight to your final grade. So you can see all of these items along with the opening date and the due date. Within FSO, we also have downloads for you. We try to make this as clear and easy as possible in the online learning content here that we're going through. So you will have downloads for each and every activity. We highly suggest that you download this information, you read it thoroughly, and you be sure that you're using this as a checklist of sorts to be sure that you are hitting on every single item. You also have access to our grading rubric, so you can see the content and the criteria that we are looking for to provide you a grade. So you have that information, use it to your power, because if you submit something that is clearly missing, I can't give you credit for it. And you have that information in advance. So be sure that you download these essential instructions. Each week also has an FAQ, just questions that have traditionally come up month after month. So we've provided an FAQ sheet here for you as well with some frequently asked questions. So the downloads are within each of the assignments. So again, just to kind of recap, the 1.1 go-to training, this is where the recording is posted, and the link for the recorded session will also be posted in this section. Many times you need to check that you have completed this activity. Second is going to be the learning activities with Resonate. Here's the list of items that you need to be reading that week. And this is, of course, the first week of CRP. At the bottom here, you need to check that you've completed this activity. So moving into something with weight to your grade, this is worth 5% of your overall course grade. This is 1.3 presentation history, which is a discussion. So this one is interesting because it actually has 2 due dates that you need to be aware of. So I wanted to click onto the next slide and tell you a little bit more about these due dates to be aware of with the discussion activity. So first here you can see there's some arrows and things that I wanted you to be aware of. These are the dates for March here. But for the 1.3 presentation history discussion, there are 2 deadlines. You must make an initial posting before midnight on Wednesday, March 1st. Okay, and this is going to continue month to month with that Wednesday deadline, that first Wednesday deadline. So the activity actually opens up on February 27th and shows that it closes on March 5th. The March 5th closing date is when you need to have your replies to other students posted. That's when it will close down. And once it closes, instructors cannot open it back up if you've missed that due date. It is meant to be more in real time and interactive, and we can't have students popping in 3 weeks later to try and interact. So we give you that shorter window of time between Wednesday and Sunday to be sure that you are completing this activity. But that Wednesday deadline is for the first initial post of the discussion activity. That Sunday due date is the due date for you to have your responses to your classmates in. So we just wanted you to be aware that there's actually 2 due dates for this particular assignment. All right, so week 1 and the week 2 discussion board activities will have those 2 due dates. Number 1, your initial post is due before midnight Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, and your reply post, usually 3 reply posts are required to get that exemplary status, to really show that you're reaching out and you're interacting with your classmates. You want to have those in before midnight on Sunday of that week also. So there are 2 due dates with the discussion board activities for week 1 and week 2. So here's what a discussion will look like, and you need to be sure that you're coming into the class discussion and you're adding your post. You will actually see my own initial post in there to give you some guidance of where it is that you will be going with this particular discussion here. You want to make your own original post. This is where you will add your own information. So be sure you add your own post, and then you can make comments on additional, like you can make a comment on my own posting or your classmates posting. But this is where you will receive that green check mark that you have submitted it. And then after that, classmates can actually see what you have written for the discussion. So that is where you want to make that initial first post for the discussion board. So again, 2 deadlines for this one. Let's check out the downloads and the instructions for the 1.3 presentation history discussion. So this is the beginning. There's a couple of pages here associated with the instructions for the discussion. So you'll want to move into, you want to read through this, and you'll want to move into exactly what it is that we're looking for in your first initial posting and then also in your reply. So let's take a look at that. So in the instructions, you want to be sure that you are looking at these bulleted items, okay? So in this discussion board, you're really going to be just sharing your experiences and thoughts regarding public speaking or oral communication with your classmates, some of the experiences maybe you have gone through. So you want to take a look first at this yellow box that I've highlighted here. So you want to explore a couple of the following prompts. There's 3 here, so at least 2 of the prompts, make sure you're including at least 2 of them. Describe your level of comfort while delivering presentations. Discuss a public speaking experience you may remember, good or bad. And discuss a time that you've created a visual presentation using programs like Keynote or Prezi or PowerPoint. And what was your biggest challenge? So be sure you are answering at least 2, preferably all 3 of these prompts. Second, be also sure to share what you would like to learn from this class, this creative presentations class. What are your expectations? Share these items with us. And also, what do you think you need to improve upon your presentation skills? So you need to be sure that you're answering these 2 questions specifically. So you want to share these experiences, and what you hope to learn will really help you shape your experience in this course. So you need to be sure you're answering these in the initial post, which is due before midnight on Wednesday. So for your 2 reply posts, minimum of 2, preferably 3 here, to get that exemplary status, you need to visit that discussion board daily and use something called the RISE model for best practices in creating that meaningful feedback. So what is the RISE model? This is what we use to guide you when you are replying to discussion board posts. It moves from the bottom of the pyramid all the way to the top. So RISE is the acronym here. So reflect. You want to talk about how, hey, I can really relate to that experience, or, I've never had an experience like that, but I can see where you're coming from. The next would be I for inquire. This is what really keeps that conversation going. ask the student or the classmate, excuse me, more questions about their experience, about their perspective. This is what keeps that discussion happening through online learning. And then move into suggest and elevate. You might want to tell them, you know what, based on what you're saying here, my experience is similar, and I suggest that you try this. This really worked out well for me. And that takes them up to the next level and how they can improve upon their situation or their experience. So that elevates them there. So be sure that you're using this RISE model for meaningful feedback. The last thing that we want to see as we're grading this is going to be, hey, nice job on the assignment, or I totally understand where you're coming from. Just 1 or 2 sentences. It's definitely not enough. And these discussion assignments are heavily weighted towards your contribution to the learning community, which we will go through in a second. So use this RISE model. It is one of the downloads for this assignment. Be sure you're looking at it and you're incorporating this into your feedback with your classmates. So this is the grading rubric, and I just wanted to touch really briefly on, if it is looking like this, it is because you don't have the Adobe Reader. So if you're finding that it's blanked out and it has these circles within the rubric, you need to go to this website here, the get.adobe.com/reader website, to get the Adobe Reader, and then the rubric should be looking like this for you. Okay, so it takes out those gaps in the text and it takes out those circles. So what we have here is our grading rubric, and this is how all of the instructors come to a determination of how we give you the grade for that assignment. So this is going to be the discussion grading rubric. There are going to be 4 categories that we're grading, and the scale is basically a scale of either exemplary, accomplished, developing, or beginning. Obviously, you want to strive for that exemplary column in everything that you're doing, okay? But that means going above and beyond the minimum requirements, okay? So when it says, you need to make 2 at minimum posts to your, or replies to your classmates, that exemplary is really going to be 3 substantial posts to them. So let me go through here and show you where we're grading. First is going to be the relevance in the dimension area, the relevance. Second is going to be the rationale. Third, and I wanted to highlight this again, is that contribution to the learning community. 30 points of this assignment is how well you are interacting and the substance that you are providing with the feedback with your classmates. So if you do a fantastic job on that initial post, but choose not to come back and interact with your classmates, that's a full 30 points off initially, and that's a huge deduction that you don't want to miss. So be sure that you are interacting with your classmates, and you're doing so using that RISE model. Last is going to be the mechanics, okay? And this comes back to that college level writing standard. You need to be sure you're writing in complete sentences, not a lot of spelling or grammar errors. You're using proper capitalization, proper spelling, and you're using that within your post. So definitely run that spell check and do a proofread before you submit it, okay? So that is going to be the grading rubric for the 1.3 assignment. So some tips for successful discussions. This, of course, is going to count in week 1 and then again in week 2. You want to first make that initial post by that Wednesday deadline prior to midnight Eastern Standard Time. You need to be sure you've answered all of the required questions. Don't leave anything out. Encourage continued conversations using that RISE model that I just showed you. And remember to post the replies to at least hopefully 3 or more of your classmates to be successful with these assignments. You may go back and edit your submission up until that due date, and I will look at that last submission for grading purposes. But remember these items to be successful with the discussion post. So moving on to the 1.4 professional presentation analysis assignment. This is a big chunk of your grade. It's 15% of your overall course grade. This post is due prior to midnight on Sunday Eastern Standard Time. So let's take a look at those downloads for this particular assignment. This is the professional presentation analysis. Okay, so we're going to be looking at presentations as an audience member. So before we can become well-versed in being speakers, we really need to take the perspective of the audience. The audience is the hero, the audience is the key, and we must take their perspective first. So with this particular assignment, you're going to be looking at different TED Talks. And if you've never seen a TED Talk, it is a wonderful website with a massive variety of public speaking experiences. And usually they're shorter talks. I don't think they can be any longer than 20 minutes. So at most of them you'll find on those average 10 to 15-minute TED Talks. So they don't take a ton of time whatsoever. But for this assignment, you may choose any 3 TED Talks. You are not limited here. So you can choose a TED Talk that captivates you, one that you find is outstanding, that you find the speaker is just engaging and really keeping your attention the whole time. You may also choose one that really didn't keep your attention and you thought could use some improvement. That's great for a compare-contrast on what you hope to be doing in your presentations versus what you hope to be leaving out. But you will be analyzing, not summarizing, but analyzing these TED Talks and what key elements you should be including in your presentation and what items were not effective. So this assignment needs to be submitted as one whole document. You may use any program that you are familiar with. I've seen this submitted in Microsoft Word. I've seen it submitted in PowerPoint, Keynote, Prezi, whatever program you're familiar with, you are free to use that. So you're not limited in that capacity. My suggestion is start venturing out. If you're well versed in PowerPoint, maybe you could start using, maybe start using Keynote to see what's a little bit different if you have access to that program. If you're well versed in Word, maybe move on to PowerPoint and see how you can really incorporate the next level of that presentation software. So here are the instructions for the 1.4 assignment. You need to research and watch a minimum of 3 different TED Talks to answer the question, what makes the presentation effective, creative, captivating, and or inspiring? Again, you have a choice. You can choose the TED Talks that you want to analyze here. So you need to consider these questions below while watching the TED Talks. They will really kind of serve as the bulk and the content that you will need for step 2. So consider those questions below. Why was this presentation powerful or moving? Why did you like the presentation? Was it the content alone, or was it how the speaker delivered the content? What made the content appealing? What made it relatable? How did the speaker draw you in to care about the subject or the topic? So that's really an analysis of the techniques that the speaker uses to keep you engaged as an audience member. What did you get out of the presentation that you would not have experienced reading an article about the topic? So really that live next step of the presentation. What did that get you that maybe just reading it would not have? And what kind of emotions did the presenter elicit? How did they do this? So consider those questions as you are watching these 3 TED Talks. So step 2. You want to create a document. And as I said before, you're not limited to your program. Use what you are comfortable with. You need to create a document for this assignment with visual elements. Be sure that you remember the visual elements, okay? Because a lot of students tend to forget this portion. The visuals can be something like a shot of the presenter while they are speaking. That is fine. Something that visually enhances your presentation, okay? So you need a visual element for each of the 3 TED Talks to include in this document. So you also need to include that analysis. Each analysis should include specific examples of elements that contributed to a powerful presentation, okay? Using those questions that we talked about on the prior slide. Step 3. A lot of students also forget this step, so be sure you include it. Conclude your assignment with your own list of 10 qualities. That is going to be 10 total qualities, not 10 qualities per TED Talk. And we'll show some examples as well in the normal go-to session here. But conclude your assignment with your own list of 10 qualities. And this is not just a bulleted list. This needs to be a list with specific examples coming from those TED Talks. So some people already have submitted their 1.4 assignments, which is great. They're trying to get ahead of the 8 ball, but be sure before, before that Sunday deadline that you've gone back and you've included everything after hearing this discussion. Okay, you may go back and edit your submission up until that due date. We will take a look at the last one submitted for grading purposes. So here is the rubric for the presentation analysis, the TED Talk assignment as we call it. First is going to be graded on content. Have you met all of the requirements? Are you missing step 2 with the visuals or step 3 with the list? So be sure that you have completed steps 1 through 3 to get that exemplary column for the content. The critical thinking, are you going in depth here? Are you providing an analysis rather than a summary? We don't want you to just summarize what was said during the TED Talk. We want you to analyze the speaker. Tell us what engaged you as an audience member and how this has continued to pull you in or maybe even turned you off as an audience member. So that critical thinking is that analysis part. The relevance, are you relating the information that you're bringing up in the TED Talk assignment and you're relating it directly back into the course material? So think about that. And the last two are going to be mechanics and delivery. Okay, so the mechanics, coming back to, again, that college level writing standard. Be sure that you've run the spell check, that you have proper grammar, punctuation. And the last is going to be the delivery aspect. We want to see something that is visually appealing as an audience member. So you need to be sure the text is readable. It is clear that you have those visual components and they are enhancing the main points of that message. So that is the grading rubric for the 1.4 assignment. So that is basically a quick overview of the first week of CRP, or creative presentation. Your instructors are here to help and give you guidance where you need it, but this is a great place to start if you're still having struggles or challenges moving through the FSO platform and how to handle those assignments. So please reach out and ask questions if you need them. Thank you.